The first time I saw Brig
The first time that I saw Kenzie
was at the theater that I was working for, and he was sitting 2 seats away from me.
my nephew Dallin, he invites me to come see his show, but he doesn't invite me to just come see his show. He told me that I need to come meet his director. I came to the show, sat down in the front row, was watching the show, and I looked to my right, saw this really, really good looking woman, and I noticed that she had like a legal pad, and I go, I bet that's the director. And so I was like, nice work, Dallin.
And I noticed him because I had heard about him previously, and I noticed he was staring at me throughout the musical.
And I think I may have watched more of her than I actually watched of the actual show that night.
But I didn't want to make eye contact. But then afterwards, I was heading out to my car. Dallin chased me down and said, hey, you need to come meet my uncle. And so I went over and talked to him, and we talked for about 10 minutes, but I actually had to go on another date, so I had to go.
And she kind of left, and I left, and that was that.
But I never thought I would see him again after that.
The next day, and a little bit later that night, I really couldn't stop thinking about her. Could not get this woman out of my head. And so I knew what I had to do. I went down to the theater afterward, the next night, because they had another show.
And I walked out and I heard, hey, Mackenzie. And I look and it's Brig, and I was totally not expecting that. And he just told me,
look, I made a huge mistake last night. I didn't get your phone number, so can I have it now?
And would you like to go out tonight? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And I told him, I said, well, the cast, we're going to Denny's tonight. You are more than welcome to come.
You know, she's like, if you don't mind going and being looked at by, you know, a bunch of kids and their parents, then you're more than welcome to come. I said, yeah, I can handle that.
So we went to Denny's and had moons over my hammy, and it was great.
So we went to Denny's and had little moons over my hammy with an audience. She was beautiful as ever and funny and laughs like she does, and yeah, we just had a great time. So we've been dating for about a couple weeks.
And I thought, okay, I really like this guy. What's the holdup? What's going on? Why aren't we official yet?
And we were kind of sitting there on the couch, and all of a sudden she just looks at me and goes, so where's this going? And I was like, okay.
So I just had a little DTR.
I mean, I already knew that I kind of wanted to date only her, but I didn't know that I was ready to kind of go there yet.
We joke around and say that I forced it on it, but I wanted to know because I didn't want to date anybody else.
But we talked about it, and it felt like the right thing to do.
And then we became official, and then we had our first kiss after that little chat. So Brig and I, we broke up for a little over a month, and I hadn't heard from him in that month.
You know, unfortunately, it took, I'm kind of a dummy, and it took me us breaking up, for me to realize that I actually was really in love with Mackenzie.
And I was actually doing a job in Montana where I choreographed at the Playmill Theater.
We had been broken up for about a month, and then there was a day, 3 days in a row, where again, same kind of thing, like right when I met her, that I just couldn't stop thinking about her. And it just kept hitting me over and over and over again. And I thought, okay, this is not a mistake. No, I love this girl. I need to go. I need to figure something out. And so I bought a very pricey last-minute plane ticket, hopped on a plane, flew to Idaho Falls, rented a car, drove to Montana, not knowing what was going to happen. But I knew that she worked at the Playmill Theater, and so I was just going to show up at the Playmill, hope that she was at the theater, and talk with her.
He came to the door.
Knocked on the door, like my heart was just like pounding.
And he came and told me that he made a mistake.
And I told to tell her that I wanted another chance and I wanted to see where this was going to lead. And we had a really good conversation, a really frank conversation.
And it was funny because a couple weeks prior to that, I remember telling my mom, you know, I just want a guy that will fight for me And that's immediately how I felt. I thought, oh my gosh, Brig is fighting for me. He must really care about me and us, and that meant a lot.
She let me know that she was willing to give me a second chance and take a risk on me, and so we got back together.
I am so glad he flew to Montana and came and asked for a second chance, and then he came back that next weekend and took me on a date, and it was the best. It was the best. And that's when I knew it was right. Things were gonna work out.
I said I love you first.
So, okay, so we're in California, and we're having just this really tender moment right by the water, and
you know, we're just sitting there having this nice moment, and you know, she's like, I really like you, Brigham Woods, and I said, you know, Mackenzie, I said, I think I more than like you. I said, I'm falling in love with you. And she looks at me and goes,
are you sure?
I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. Who asked that?
Because I just had to double check. I wasn't sure. I got nervous. I didn't know. And I came back and said, okay, are you in love? Are you falling in love? Like what? I'm confused. What is happening? And he said,
I'm falling in love with you. I said, and then I'm a bonehead, and I go, you know what? When I'm in love with you, I'll let you know.
He said, later he said, well, what's in between love and like? And I'm like, okay, you're being a wimp, just say it. Just say that you love me.
Yeah, wrong move. And I think at that point I was in love with her. I think jumping out on that limb was a little scary because of what it was gonna mean.
But then the next morning, we went to the beach and he went surfing.
I was coming back from surfing and we were walking back across the beach and we were holding hands, and I just felt nothing but love for her.
And he had, you know, the zinc, I think that's what it is, like all over his face, and we're holding hands, and he just looks at me and just says,
I just want you to know that I am in love with you, and I do love you.
I told him I love him too, because I didn't want to repeat the are you sure, but it was just a really sweet moment, especially with the zinc on his face.
Then she made mention that I have zinc all over my face and my hair was all kind of messed up. But I wouldn't have had it any other way. The proposal.
Okay, so about a month prior, Brig came to me and said, hey, we should take a weekend and go to San Francisco, because I've never been and it's something we've always talked about.
And so we went to San Francisco. Friday, the day before, we had been to Fisherman's Wharf and the pier, kind of down by Ghirardelli Square.
And there was a group of Korean people, and Brig started speaking Korean.
And then I go, yeah, and I'm actually proposing to her tomorrow. And they all started clapping.
And I'm standing there looking like an idiot, like, okay, what's so great?
Then Saturday,
we had just had our bikes and we're at the park, and
I said, hey, this would be a really great spot to take a picture. Just kind of pulled her in and gave her a hug and just started telling her that how grateful I was for her and how much I loved her, and that she really is the most special thing to me. And
the next thing I know, he's down on one knee, and it was just so perfect and simple and great.
She said yes and did a little jig, and then we started calling everybody, took some pictures, and yeah, it was wonderful.
And it was perfect.
There's a lot of things that I love about our relationship. One of my favorite things about our relationship is that I feel like I can totally be myself with her. I can be goofy and fun, and she can be goofy and fun. And that's really what, I mean, we just have a lot of fun together.
He makes me laugh every single day, and there's never a dull moment. And we just have a lot of fun.
I know it sounds stupid and cliche, but I really think it's safe to say that, like, she's my best friend.
One of the things that I love about Brig is how thoughtful he is. He goes out of his way to show that he cares about me and goes out of his way to make me feel special. I love that about him. Love it.
And I think what I also really love is just how accepting and how sweet she is to me all the time. And how she's always willing to work with me on any struggles or anything that we have, and that she's always there to support me, and what I love is that I am there to support her. And so yeah, I can't think of anybody else I'd rather go through this life and the rest of eternity with.